Hello and welcome everybody, it's Karen. I hope it's a fun video. I've got a card fold for you today that is so easy, anybody can do this one. These are the two cards I'm going to make today. Now I promise you, if you can make 4 score lines in your card, you can make this card. So I've made this one here off camera and I'm just showing you, it was the first one I did. Now I did my ink blending after I had scored and folded it, which is never good, so we're not going to do that today. You can see I've used some acetate strips to position that turtle up above and the fish down below. And I've used a circle die for this, but there is so much dimension in these cards and they're really fun. But truly very, very simple to make. Now this one I've used the jungle frame die set to cut that opening. The other ones I've used a circle die, but you can use whatever you want to make whatever shape opening you would like to have. Now on this one I've got acetate, alcohol inked acetate for the lake at the bottom there, and I've put a piece at the back of the card and one against the front edge of the card. Now you need to score all of that down the middle, but let's make the card together because it really is easy, you guys. So I'm starting with the 5.5 by 10.5 inch wide piece of cardstock. You can make the height whatever you want. So my next card I think is 6 inches, but you can change that up. You could also change the width if you want. You would just have to score evenly. Leave a flap on one side and then score the rest into 4 equal sections. So here you can see I'm scoring it at 10 inches. So that gives me a 1/2 inch flap. Now normally you're going to score at 2.5, 5, and 7.5, but because we're going to ink blend first, I'm only going to score down at 5 inches, and that's going to divide this card in half. And so then we can do all our ink blending on the front and the inside back. So I'm just folding that flap to the inside, and again the card, just making sure it's nicely lined up before I burnish that with my bone folder. And that's the first part of the card. So you can see how that's going to go together there. So that will be the inside back, and you want to do your ink blending or put your pattern paper in, do whatever you're going to do now. So I wasn't entirely sure where to put this island until I've cut my front opening. So I'm going to do the ink blending on the front. But I tape off the back because you will do your writing on the back. So unless you're matting the back, you probably want to keep it masked off. So I just did a quick sky, and then I'm going to use a circle die to cut my opening, and then I'll be able to see where I want to put this island. Now I did a bit more ink blending on some scrap card, and I've cut it to sort of coordinate with the island on the inside. And now I'm going to glue this down to the front of my card, and then I can position the back inside where I need it to go. So now that those are on, we're going to do the scoring. So we're going to score at 2.5 inches up and down both the top and the bottom now of this front of the card. And then we'll score the back at 7.5 inches. So you have to go right across those palm trees and across the island. But you just want to make sure you've got a nice score line there. And then we're going to bend that in half. Now you don't have to totally burnish this, you just want it to have that bending shapes, basically. Like I'm not using my bone folder to really burnish that. Now you can see how this card is going to go together here. Sometimes that flap, depending on your opening, may protrude a little bit. Now mine was okay, but I'm going to show you what I would do. So usually if it's sticking out too far, if you're 1/2 inches further out, I would just trim off a little of the flap so that it doesn't show through that opening. So then I had a few extra palm trees that I'm adding into the front here. Now you'll see I let this go a little too far to the left, and I end up having to move this palm tree over. So I like to have a colored envelope on hand where I can see the edges of my card. So that's exactly what I'm doing there, and I can tell that it's not going to fit into my envelope, and that is a 5x7 envelope. So I sort of pulled this tree up and I'm moving him over more into the middle so that everything will fit inside that envelope now. Now I did add some red line tape to the inside of my flap. I don't know why I did that. I think glue is actually easier. But I've also got an old background piece that, I don't know, came from some gel print, I think. I'm not sure what. But I just thought that would be pretty for the ocean. So I'm going to cut just a little piece of that to go at the bottom. And then I will glue that to the inside of my card. Now I think that was rice paper that I had that background on, and it's quite thin. So I didn't score this in the middle. And you'll see it will bend just fine. But if you had thicker cardstock or acetate, you would probably want to score that and then bend it, or score it and then make sure it's all lined up with the center fold of the card. So there, mine worked out just fine like that. And that's going to be the water. So now I can glue my images down. Now, when you put your images on, you want to be careful that you're not crossing the midline, or else you'll have to put a score line in your animal or whatever it is you're gluing down. So I've kept my turtle off to the right side of that center score line on the back. And then on the front piece here, I'll put this other turtle and again off to the other side of the score line. And then for my sentiment, I'm taking it from that same turtle stamp set, and I've just stamped and clear embossed on the front. And now I can put my card together. So I've removed that release paper. I'm going to fold my card in half, and I'm just going to pull this front flap to meet the edges of the back flap. And because it was that red line tape, it really was, it just sticks. So this is where I do think that glue would be much, much easier for you to do. And so once you've got that there, it'll pop up almost automatically. I just added in a few seagulls that came from that Build an Island stamp set, and a cloud or two, I believe. And then I've added that extra turtle, and now on the right I got a glue drop right beside that palm tree, so I stuck a little half cloud, which is covering up the mess that I made with the glue. But there you can see all the dimension that you get with this. It folds down flat to go into an envelope, but it's so fun to pop these up, and depending on what you put in them, I mean, I could have added more to the sand inside at the back, but they are really fun. They stand up beautifully on their own. And there's lots of room on the back of these to write whatever message you want to put. You could put mats back there as well if you wanted to decorate it a bit more. Okay, so here's card number 2. Now, for this one, I wanted to try using this pattern paper for the back. So I've got the Southern bell cow, and that's a digital image that I had colored up. So that is a 6x6 country farm paper in the background, and I've cut a 5" by 6" tall card front that I've ink blended. So on the card back, we're going to score this a 1/2 inch in from each end, because now we're going to need a flap on both sides because it has to attach to the front. So here's the front. Because I've done the ink blending already, I can score this now. Oh, I'm just showing you here that it is the same height as the background, and so now both of these I'm going to score down the middle. So right at 3 inches for this 6x6 paper, and it's also got the 2 flaps on the side, and then this one will score right down the middle at 2.5 inches. So this card ends up being 5 inches wide by 6 inches tall. So I can fold these now. I've put that red line tape down again. I don't know why, but there you go. I think it was out on my desk and I just started using it. So all of these get folded in the same way. They're all mountain folds. They're all folding into the middle. And this midline at the back, I don't really use my bone folder for. You don't need it to be a really burnished fold, but if it's already folded once, it will keep its shape when you go to open up the card. So now I can fold this one in half in the middle. And then I like to put the left side together, so I'm just pulling down that release tape just slightly. I'm sorry I'm a bit off camera here. But then I can line up my card front with the unreleased end of the tape end, and then get everything in place, and then press it all into place and remove the rest of the release paper. So that's all I was doing there. Off camera, I'm sorry. And then we're ready to decorate this. So you can see how that's going to go together. And I did think that pattern paper worked really well in the background. So I'm gluing my animals there. Now I know that looks weird. I have a plan. You can see all that grass on my desk from the slimline fence die set. I'm going to put that to cover the bottom of that, that barn door, whatever it is. I just thought if I had the barn in the background, it would look a bit more like it was a bit more cohesive. So covering all up the bottom with the grass, and then that's how it's going to look. So I thought that was not too bad, considering they don't go together at all. Now I've added in that little speech bubble. It's from that Southern Cowbell stamp set, and I'm gluing in, I've made a fence with that slimline fence die set, and I'm just gluing in the posts here on either side of my opening, and then I can glue the rail piece across. But because this will cross the midline, I'm scoring it in half. So I'm just eyeballing roughly where half is, and that fold line is going to go right in the middle now. And so I'm tacking that in place before I glue this down. So I lined up the folds, tacked it in place with low tack tape, and then I can go back and put glue in where they meet up with the posts. And then on the inside, I'll just finish gluing that down in place. So that's the fence in place there now, and I'm just adding a bit more grass and my cow. Now up there at the top, when I die cut my opening, my window opening, I must have had a piece of cardstock stuck in my die cutting machine, and it made a big embossed dent in my card, which bothered me. So I'm just covering that with a cloud. Now I could fold that cloud in half, but I chose to just glue on the right hand side of it and then cover up that indent. So the left side of this cloud is going to stick out now when it's bent like that, which didn't bother me. I'd rather that than have it folded, I thought. So I've got a bit more grass now that I'm putting down. Now with my label maker, I made this sentiment, and I have to admit I've put some glue on it because it is a removable label. But I wished I had put this to cardstock first, because it's so thin that you can kind of see the lumps and bumps from the grass in behind that. But definitely you can do that, or if you've got a sentiment that you want stamped, you could do that. So now I'm all ready to put this together. So I just removed the release paper on that flap, and then we're going to fold this in half and just bring those edges right over to meet the side, and just try not to get your finger stuck in there like mine was. And you'll be all good. I think honestly glue is the way to go with this. You just have that much more wiggle room. So there's this card. Now again, they fold so flat, but there is so much dimension to these, and you could have things coming off the edges, you could have birds coming down, whatever you want. And I just think they are really fun to try to do. I know you can't really read that sentiment terribly well on camera. In real life, you can read it just fine. But I thought that the pattern paper worked out really well for the background. I was quite happy with that, actually. So thanks for stopping by, everybody. Here's another little look at the other cards that I had done, and I hope everybody's having a great day. Talk to you next time. Bye.